This is something I really struggle with. My next question for you was about how to deal with low-level admin pileup and anxiety, because my issue right now, Luke, is I'm definitely, you'd be very ashamed of me. Following traction, I've got items on my to-do list that have been there way too long. And I'm having to really just highlight the ones in green that really priority items that are going to achieve my rocks, right? Which is how we should be doing it. But I'm just finding I think that's my challenge. And it's one of the reasons why I had, Skylar and Kyle on the podcast talk about productivity and getting things done. I had obviously Matt on to talk about that. I had David Allen himself on back in the day to talk about getting things done. To which his kind of response to a lot of my challenges was, "Come on, Lawrence, get it together." But yeah, it's still something I struggle with. Is I guess overwhelm, and I think part of the solution for that is one, I'm getting better at saying no. I think it's really important to say no, because now that I guess I'm having more traction in my business, I am getting more opportunities, and I just have to say no to like 99.9%, because unless they're aligned with the priorities I have, they're just distractions, right? And they dilute your focus. Do you say no a lot, Luke? I'm just curious. Like, do you find yourself saying no a lot?
I need help in saying no. So,
okay.
I have a really wonderful executive assistant who is good at getting me to say no. I mean, or she'll say no for me, or she'll say, "Luke, you said yes to that. That's not aligned with your schedule, your priorities, etc." And so I struggle with it because what happens, Lawrence, and you're dealing with this right now, is the stuff you're saying no to is stuff that you like doing and maybe you're good at and you get a rush from. And so you want to say yes to it and you want to be helpful. And I think it's hard to say no because those things are, they're enticing, right? You get a hit of dopamine from being involved in a lot of those things. So I struggle with saying no, and I'm getting better at saying no. And what I always try to do is I try to fast forward to a week from now or a few days from now when I'm not in such a positive mood. And I feel like I'm looking at my calendar and I wake up in the morning and I want to call Heather and be like, "How did you think this was a good idea, Heather? How did you think it was a good idea that I'm booked from 4:30 a.m. okay until 9 p.m. with no second to even go to the bathroom?" And I know I'm going to get there eventually. Mentally, I'm going to get there and be upset about it. And so how can I say no to something right now so I don't get into that position? And so I've been asked things like, would you mentor me? And this is what the mentorship would look like. And I love that idea. I mean, if you told me when I was 20 years old, someone would ask me to mentor them, spend time with them, that sounds like about the most rewarding, coolest thing that I could ever dream of. Well, I also know that I need to say no to it because that mentee, I'm going to let them down because I'm not going to be mentally all in with them. I'm not going to be able to spend enough time with them. And then they're going to get done with any type of mentorship with me and be like, that guy actually was not as special as I thought. And that was not a very meaningful interaction. And I can see what's going to happen, right? So I want to avoid it. Rather than put the pressure on myself to actually step up and do it well, just say I'm not going to do it well. So I just can't do it at all.
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate that, and I fully agree. I will even say, go on.
I'm sorry, Lawrence. I just get excited. You go ahead. I want you to do this time.
So I just think even when you do it, you say it to me. Like, for those listening, I make requests of Luke quite a lot, and sometimes I chance my arm and to see if he'll go for it. And and I like the way you say no to me. You're always very polite, and I also think, it's kind of a testament. It's almost like a litmus test for those in your network. It's like, well, because I've said no to people and they've, not reacted very well to that. And then all that makes me think as well, I'm definitely not going to say yes in the future, So I sometimes think that it's interesting. It's an interesting test when you do say no to see how the other person responds, and how good your relationship is as well. So that's just a side thought, really.
Yeah, two key things there. I'm really related to that is I don't want to give the impression that you can only say yes to things that are absolutely going to move you toward your stated goal, right? Like you can say yes to things that you're just interested in and passionate about, but you always have to be clear on how you want to be spending your time. So I think one of the most influential books I've ever read, I read in January. No, it was February or March. We were maybe even into lockdown. It was maybe March. It's Donald Miller, and it's called A Million Miles in a Thousand Years. And it's basically, it's a memoir, but it will change your life. It's about like, hey, you are the author of the story about your life. You should probably write a better story. And so you got to take a step back and think about, what kind of story am I writing here? And so you better do things that are interesting. I was in a board meeting yesterday for the International Health Club Association. And one of the guys on the board pinged me and said, hey, did you get my email? Or are you in? And I thought, I didn't get an email from you. What are you talking about? And he sends me over a trail run. So there's a 17-mile option and a 26-mile option, a full marathon through the mountains and trails in Arkansas. And literally the warning on the website says, if you've never done a trail race before, do not do this trail race, because the chances of being incapacitated, lost, or injured without a chance of rescue are very high. And I thought, wow, this sounds incredible. So I'm going to fly to Arkansas in the beginning of January and hang out with him and do this run. Now, is that linked to my stated goals for 2021? Well, no, it's not at all. But is it part of what I want my life to be about? Yeah. So I'm allowed to include it. Now, when you talked about saying no to people that ask you for things, I think when you say no, and you often say yes, I think, so sometimes you're saying yes, sometimes you're saying no. I think it teaches the people that ask things of you to be selective and continue to ask the right things where you can provide the most value. And I think that you're going to continue to get things that come your way that are more suited to your sweet spot and things you're passionate about and things you're interested in. So I think they're more respectful of asking you for the right things. And the other thing is Lawrence, you know that I feel this way, is I have an abundance mentality, and I just don't want to go through life, only thinking about, does it help me reach my stated goals? Because ultimately, every time I say yes to something, man, it just opens up more opportunities for me and, new learnings for me. And so I just, sometimes I think you do have to say yes, and great things come about it. And you have to be reflective and say, this is how I'm spending my time. These are the things I've said yes to. Has this been fruitful? Has it led to other opportunities? Has it led to other growth in my business or in my life? And for me, the answer has always been yes. So many great things happen from saying yes to these things. So it's you have to weigh and consider that as well.
Yeah. I like the distinction you made between saying yes to something that is going to bring you a lot of joy. And I think part of it is about discerning the difference between that and something that you're like really up for in the moment, but your future self won't be up for, right? That's kind of, I think that's almost like you have to practice that and get better at that. And then you become more attuned to, okay, yeah, that sounds like something that'd be cool now, but I know in 2 weeks, I'll just be like, no, I don't want to do that. And say no. And you're better off probably saying no to that at that point.
You just said it so perfectly. Your future self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would my future self be like, Luke, what are you thinking? Why did you do this? Why'd you say yes to this? It's just easy for you to respond to that email quickly and say, yep, I'll do it. Let's schedule it. And yeah, future self is not happy with that.
Like a podcast with Lawrence Neal, for example. I hope not. So I just wanted to jump back because I'm really curious on some advice from you, actually. Going back to the low-level admin, the stuff that is, maybe it's important but not urgent, right? Maybe it's important later. Maybe, I'm one of these people, if I make a commitment, no matter how small, I feel so awful if I don't follow through with it, right? I really think, and that's integrity. And if you don't have that, what do you have, right? And one example, I'll give you a real world example we can talk about. So I have a client I'm working with virtually for virtual training, and he's also a data analyst, and he's a total wizard with spreadsheets. And I was talking to him about, we're going to be building some kind of more advanced Google Sheet for tracking virtuals and studio training in our studio here in Galway. And we might be using a Google Sheet or an app. We're not quite sure. And he said, "Look, I can build you something. It's child's play for me because he does really advanced, data analytics with spreadsheets. So, the stuff I sort of described to him in terms of tracking workouts was very simplistic for him." And then, I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." So then we had a separate call and we talked through what might need to happen, what he needs from me. And then I sort of said, "Yeah, that's great. And I'll provide all those things you need." And one of those things was to provide him with a detailed exercise menu, which, to be fair, is something I do need to do complete anyway. But without keeping a long story short, in the terms of the list of all my priorities right now, this is like way down the bottom. I mean, we really don't need a really fancy spreadsheet or app right now. We just actually, what's more important is continuing using what we currently use and generate more clients in a nutshell. And I've had this item on my calendar and just gets shifted to the next day, to the next day, to the next day. And I've actually decided, I don't think Tulu will listen. I don't think he listens to my show. So not that it matters if he does. I'm actually going to email him today and just say, "Look, this is where this is in my priority list. Let's just park it. Don't do any work yourself and wait for me to come back to him." So maybe just talking that out to you there is like helped me solve that. But I'm just curious, like, do you personally have a long list of to-dos or emails or quote unquote admin that does pile up, and how do you personally manage that?
I love how you just solved that specific issue that you have. I think that's a great approach, and just having clear communication on it. For me, it's I'm going to restate what I said. It's never one of my big three, but it's in that list below that. And I'm still going to try to work on that list. So when the big three's done, I'm going to try to work through the rest of that admin list. And then I'm also going to try to delegate any of that admin list that I can. So before I even put it on the list, I might have somebody else do it. So there's maybe somebody else in the company that should be doing it as actual work, or Heather, my assistant, should be doing it. And we've gotten really good on that. Like right now, that those are personal and professional things. Like, I don't book a restaurant reservation. She will always do that. I don't book, like, I have a massage tonight at 8 p.m. She books that. She books a haircut for me. She books any appointment that I would have, literally my dentist appointments, she books. Now, you may say that's silly, but I like to have everything scheduled. And that's, if it's 5 minutes scheduling one of those things, all of that adds up. So then there's a lot of to-dos also. So like we have a new corporate office. The building is beautiful, and there's these outdoor deck spaces, and we wanted to host a meeting on the outdoor deck space so people could be outdoors and socially distanced, and we we're going to have like 45 people there. And I said, "Heather, can you book this?" So she knows who to talk to. She knows what questions to ask. She can figure all of it out. And that's an important admin step. And I get excited about that. I know who the woman is that I wanted. Her name's Jordan. I wanted to reach out to her and say, "Oh, we have this vision for the meeting. We want to do it outside. We want to have the doors open, so it's part inside and outside. And we'll have a projector screen up and do PowerPoint, and it'll overlook Excelsior Avenue. And this will be," I didn't do any of it, and Heather just ran with it. So you got to delegate some of those things. Yeah. And then lastly, it goes back to the question, and this is the age-old question: what do you want to be known for? And one of the things I want to be known for is I can follow through on commitments. And in terms of communication, if someone asks something of me, I will respond to them quickly. And the person that modeled this to me is Joe Cirilli, who Joe Cirilli is the legendary founder and owner of the Gainesville Health and Fitness Center. And every time I email him or text message him, he always responds to me with either action or a thank you or a reply. He gets back to every communication. And I'm thinking, this guy's got 600 employees and he's got a busy life. He has people constantly. The guy does not fall behind on his email, his text messages, his communication. And he modeled that to me when I was like 22, 23 years old, bothering him. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the same way. I want to stay on top of those things. And I can't believe how many people operate businesses where you ask something simple of them, or you maybe even are offering them something of value and they don't even get back to you. Like the inability to manage admin and emails and text messages is an Achilles heel for so many entrepreneurs. And I think it's important, not because those items are the most important thing you're going to do that day, but because how do you want, what do you want to be known for? How do you want to be perceived by colleagues and friends? Do you want to be perceived as someone who can close the loop and respond to your communications and deliver on a promise? And you might even just say, you might just respond to the email and say, I can't do this, but at least you've responded, right? There's nothing worse. I mean, I talk to Hannah every single week about someone with our rec conference or some other event that we're doing in all different, like in our space and other spaces. And we say, hey, we've got to email it to this person. We haven't heard back from them. Or Hannah will say, hey, I've emailed them 4 times. I've text messaged them twice. I've direct messaged them on Instagram and on Facebook and haven't heard anything back. And to me, it's like my opinion of that person maybe drops 5% because I'm like, how can you not communicate? Because what we're talking about here is something that's going to benefit you massively. Like we're working harder on this for your benefit than you are. And I don't want to show up that way. I want to be someone that can actually manage my communications and my commitments.
I fully agree with that. And I think that's part of my problem. It's like make too many tiny commitments. If people listening to this are struggling with organization managing email, I really recommend you use either Boomerang for email, which enables you to send an email and then if they reply or don't reply, you can set conditions. It will ping it back to you within a set time frame. So it could be a day, 2 days, 1 week, 1 month. I find that so useful for tracking communications. You can just send it and then not have to think about it. I think, in fact, Google or Gmail might have something inbuilt now that does that automatically. But what do you use, Luke, for stuff like that? Or do you not?
I don't have anything sophisticated like that. No.
Okay. Personally, I find that really helpful. And so that can help, because I agree with you, Luke. It's like, it's those simple things, right? Do what you say you're going to do. Have the courtesy to say thanks. Think about how you want to be remembered. Like that stuff is like, I can't remember where I heard this, but it's like when you kick the bucket, right? And you're dead. The things people remember you for aren't necessarily your achievements. It's your reputation, right? It's who you were. And that's really, really struck a chord with me. It really made me think, you know what, like I need to be making sure that I'm living core values and putting that above business success. You know what I mean? So, and
you're so right. That's so brilliant. But if you don't want to be that esoteric or that, if you don't want to take that vantage point, Lawrence, you could also just take a couple steps back and say, the people that I'm interacting with and that I'm maybe letting down, or I don't respond to the email, or I don't come through for them, a year from now, this happens to me all the time, I'm going to need something from them. And before I reach out to them right away, I go through my memory bank and I think, have I responded to them, the last time they reached out to me? Do I have things that I haven't, loose ends that I haven't tied up with my interactions with them? Because if that's the case, I'm hesitant to even reach out to them because I haven't come through for them. And so I want to make sure I've come through for everybody so that when it's my turn to ask them for something, which I am going to ask them for something, I'm going to say, I need you to do this. I want a track record of doing things for them. James Fisher recently reached out to me and said, hey, big thing I need you to do for me. And if it's too big, let me know. And it's a pretty big thing. And I looked at it and I said, we can do it. And I turned to Hannah and I said, guess what? I got a big thing for us from James Fisher that you're going to have to do. And right away, she's like, okay, great. You're putting more things on my plate. And I framed it up right away to her. And I was actually talking to the rest of our leadership team. I said, James Fisher does so much for us. We have this opportunity to do something for him. We are going to come through and we're going to get it right. And we're going to get it so right that the next thing we need something from him, when I ask him, he's going to do it. And I ask him for something all the time. I ping him, I say, I need this journal article. Can you send it to me? And he gets it to me right away. And I want him to want to do that because he, whether he's consciously thinking about it or not, he's like, man, Luke always comes through for me. And by the way, we're not keeping score here, right? We're not keeping score. I just feel better when I'm asking you of something. If I come through for you, I don't want to have a selfish relationship. I want to constantly be giving. I don't want the relationship to be even either. I'm not giving to you because I've received from you. I'm not, like I said, I'm not keeping score. It's not supposed to be even. I just want to make sure that I'm providing value for you also, because I know I'm going to turn and ask of something, of a colleague, of a friend, of a peer.